August 2003. A heat wave is breaking out in Europe, with expecting temperatures of 30 degrees and even higher. About 80,000 more people than usual will be affected this month. Especially older people and people with pre-existing disasters will be affected. But why is it like this? Heat waves that last into the night are occurring more and more frequently. The human cardiovascular system is easily damaged from the high temperatures, what turns heat waves into one of the most common causes of death in Europe. I would like to welcome you to this presentation and present my topic of today, the global warming. Before I begin, we will briefly go over the points I have to work on. At first, the definition. How does the greenhouse effect work? Why we expect higher temperatures over the years? Why is the climate changing now? How does your current future look like? Can geoengineering help us? Finally, I will ask you 3 questions. Definition. Global warming, also known as climate change or the greenhouse effect, describes the rise in temperatures across the globe. How does greenhouse effect work? The Earth is surrounded by your atmosphere. It contains of 78.08% of nitrogen, 20.95% of oxygen, 0.93% of argon, and 0.04% of carbon dioxide. An essential element is carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. It includes water vapor, methane, and nitrous oxide. When solar radiation normally hits the Earth, part of it is usually shielded by the atmosphere, clouds, and a part is absorbed. However, the sun rays are also reflected by the Earth. That CO2 that humans have been producing since the beginning of industrialization gets into the air and cannot be broken down quickly enough by plants, trees, and seaweeds. So the gas remains into the air for the time being and reflects the sun rays back from the Earth. This results into the trend of rising temperatures. Of course, we cannot imagine the Earth's atmosphere without it. Otherwise, we would have surface temperatures of -50 to -25 degrees Celsius, which would be almost unimaginable. But why be do expecting high temperatures over the years? One of the reasons has already been mentioned. Firstly, because there are more and more people, they have also to be fed. One of the ways to do it is to eat meat, which is not only delicious, but also insanely climate unfriendly. More and more factory farms are being built to meet people's needs. This is not longer time natural, but also increasingly unhealthy. More and more animals are being injected with antibiotics to avoid getting sick, especially because feeding the animals is highly inefficient. Here we see a curse of temperatures over the next decades. Can we do anything about it? One of the main causes of climate change is the fact that humans burn fossil fuels, which release CO2 into the air. The fossil fuels are known as oil, gas, and coal. Examples. We all know these from cars, planes, ships, heaters, or even in the creation of plastic items. 2017. In 2017, man-made climate change now reached 1 degree Celsius plus since 1850. What are the consequences of it? Is more heat really damaging us? As I mentioned at the beginning, about 80,000 people died in Europe in 2003 due to the excessive heat. Of course, this had not been the only reason. Climate change is also causing global damage, such as rising sea levels due to the melting of the polar ice caps. What does your current future look like? With extreme heat will come extreme weather games. Extreme droughts, floods, and storms will not be longer uncommon. At 1.5 degrees, 70% of coral reef will die, and at 2 degrees, even 99% of coral reef will be. The causer is the human, which always want more and more. By 2050, the Greenland ice shields will have almost completely melted. The sea levels are expected to rise by 50 centimeters. In many parts of the world, some people will become homeless and climate refugees. Several cubic kilometers of land will be flooded. Agriculture will become increasingly difficult as saltwater affect fertility. Storms and weather events will reach even higher records. Heavy rainfall becomes the norm. Exotic animals like koala bear, polar bear, sea turtles, and many others will die. The battle of drinking water begins. Geoengineering is a concept of giving the Earth cooling time. It works like this. The idea behind this concept is to spray the Earth's atmosphere with artificial smoke to block the sun rays. also called stratospheric aerosol injection. This was triggered in 1991 by the MT Pinatubo. This was one of the strongest volcanic eruptions on the Earth. The eruption threw sulfur dioxide into the air, which then turned into sulfuric acid and formed huge clouds of smoke when it came to contact with water. This caused sunlight to reflect about 1% back into space. This resulted in the Earth being about 0.5 degrees Celsius cooler for about 3 years. This principle would also be used in the stratospheric aerosol injection. So what can I do to stop the global warming? One thing you can do yourself is to use public transport, such as buses and trains. To take a bicycle instead of the car for shorter distances, and simply walk more instead of driving. If possible, you should avoid flights and take the train or bus instead. Eating less meat or not at all would make a big difference. Shop at organic shops. By buying organic, you are supporting them. You can also save a lot of electricity. LED lights are very energy efficient and should be used instead of normal bulbs. Instead of sitting hours and hours on your mobile phone, just read a book.